Okay, so in this video, what I'm basically going to be doing is installing a Fedora Chroot, and in order to install it, I have to first install it onto a Fedora system, because I tried doing it with Centos, but for whatever reason the RPM just wasn't compatible. So it seems when you create one, you do have to use an original system to set it up, even though the system you copy onto doesn't need to have the necessary software inside it. All it needs is just the kernel has to be compatible. So basically I'm just going to start up this Fedora server that I'd sort of installed before, and I'm also using this snapshot option so that when I run it, any changes I make don't actually stay, and so which means I can use the same install over and over again to test other things. So I'm just going to run that. And obviously that's running systemd, so that's why it boots up so quick, but who really needs a server to boot quick anyway, since the BIOS usually takes forever if you've got quite an expensive sort of motherboard. So now I'm just going to connect to that 191 address that it showed on there with SSH. Using the root password I set up from before. And now to install the Chroot itself, basically I have a page I've created on my site which has the commands on it, and I'll put a link to the page in the description, and essentially all you have to do is just run the commands as you see on here. So the first one just sets up a variable which points to wherever you want all the files to be populated. And then now you obviously have to create that directory, and then you're going to change to just one directory above the one we've just created, and then just need to add an RPM database into it so that the RPM command that we're going to run can work. And this is that way you need the compatibility with the Fedora, because the RPM command, if it's a wrong one, you'll start to get some errors when you try to run yum later on. So now we just get these two RPM files which you're going to need to we need to install these into the empty Chroot first. And basically the first one just sets up the correct version of some files in there, so that the correct version can be downloaded by yum later on. And then also yum needs to know where the repositories are, so we just have this repository file gets installed so that the correct URLs are present for it to use. So now we're going to run the yum command, and what it does now is by installing these two files, it literally pulls in the whole of the rest of the system that's needed in order to have a basic system running that you can log into. Okay, so now it's just going to download the necessary files. So this is effectively similar to a minimal install, but it's actually even missing some things that a minimal install will normally get you. So if you want your Chroot to be as small as possible, this is basically how you'd do it. Okay, so that's it. So the files are installed there. So what we next need to do is just have a minimal system for when we log in, so that we can get a sensible prompt. And also for the net IP resolution to work, we need the resolve.conf file. So we just copy the one from the host system into it, and then just installing some couple of basic programs as well, so that for if you just want to make sure the networking is okay. Alright, so that's basically it for the Chroot setup. So essentially the files that are in this location, basically in this Fedora Chroot directory, those are the files that you can now copy to whatever other OS you're going to be running on, as long as the kernel is on the system you're running on is compatible with the C library, then it will basically run. So I'm just going to do that now on another Centos system I've just set up. Right, so just waiting for that to start up, because these other commands are what you'd actually run once you've copied it over. Okay, so I just want to get the IP address of that, so that's 202. So now what we do is okay, so we're in that system. So what we have to do is basically tar up this directory and then copy it over to the other machine. Okay, so that's done. So now just have to copy it across. Okay, so that's copied over. So now if we go to this machine, basically the Chroot, we can basically copy to wherever we want. So you've just got it here in the home directory, so we can just untar it here if we want to. So the location doesn't matter. Once you actually run the Chroot command to go into it, then it will it's complaining about the date, but it doesn't really matter. So now we have it there. What we can do is back on the page, I've got some files that you can use to actually run to mount and unmount it, and basically they're just command where you just use cat, it just saves having to use a text editor. That's why I've done it this way. So if I just paste that command into the terminal, it will then create a text file which actually can be used, and then you just have to make it executable, and so then it'll be a shell script that you can actually run. So that's for the mounting, and then this one is for unmounting. And what it basically does, as you can see, is it basically mounts the required paths from the host system that the Chroot needs in order to function as a normal system. And most programs don't need this, but it's the ones which runs as a service. Usually anything you want to run in a Chroot that runs as a background service, you're going to need these files. If it's just a single application, then you will need dev, because usually every application needs dev 0 and some need dev random as well. So even normal applications which are not services. Alright, so we've made them both executable now. So if you ls, you can see they both can be run. So now if you want to, the other thing I just have to do, I just need to, one thing I forgot is that because of where I've put it, I just did some of those commands using the variable again, so I just need to actually create it here. But of course I have to make sure it points to the current destination that I have it in. So what this command does is it basically, there's a script that I've put into this puts a script into the Chroot that basically runs, as you see the other two scripts, they run this particular script when you mount and unmount the sort of required file system. So I'm just really putting this in so that you don't get an error, or you get an error message when you run those scripts. But basically this script, you can add anything you want in there that starts when the Chroot is actually run. So now you're gonna mount those directories into the Chroot. Oh yeah, I forgot this is running. Yeah, I didn't disable the SE Linux, but I don't know. We'll see. See if that complains or not. Oh, sorry, if it will actually work. So now, if we go into the actual Chroot itself, and so now we're actually inside it. So if we do ls, we can see the normal contents, and if we go into root, and all that's in there is just that file that we created. So now we're actually inside the Chroot itself. And then just to show that it actually works, I'm going to just install the usual files that I normally use in order to, when I'm on the command line. And that's how that's working. So basically what you'll find is if yum works, then everything else will work as well, because when there's any kind of problem with the setup of your Chroot, you'll soon find out that yum will not install anything. But if it will install, then that means other programs will run, and also any services that you want to run as well will work as well. But the one important thing you have to remember is that it won't run systemd, because systemd is a bit difficult and it won't run in a Chroot. So you have to use system5 init, where you actually just copy the files Actually, I can use MC. So basically, if you want to run any services, you have to copy the files into etc and then init.d. So you still got your files, the functions and the network, which you normally use. And I'll be showing you that in the next video, where I'll be setting up MotionEye. But basically, that's it for now on this one. And so if you want to leave, you just type exit, and then that takes you out back into the host system. And oh yeah, I forgot to show you. So here we can see that we're in CentOS here. But then if we go into the Chroot and then we run the same command, you see we're in Fedora 26. So that shows you that it's working. And then once you exit out, the other thing you have to make sure to do is to unmount the directories in the Chroot, because as I found out in the past, if you ever decide to delete the Chroot, if you have these directories mounted, you end up deleting all your device files, which which can be a problem sometimes, especially if you're not running UDEV, like I don't like to. Okay, so that's basically it. And so that's the end of this particular video, and I'll just be doing another one relating to this about how to install MotionEye. Okay, see you. Bye.